I'm really excited to introduce our next speakers joining us from Autodesk. Stephanie Tyler is a talent acquisition programs leader at Autodesk and is a senior manager within that. She has over 15 years experience with launching, scaling, and maturing early career strategies and talent acquisition programs. With a growth mindset, Stephanie is passionate about her team and constantly innovating. So welcome, Stephanie. Stephanie's going to be joined in conversation by one of her own coworkers, Brett Delia. Brett has over 20 years of experience in developing, architecting, and delivering enterprise software solutions in a variety of verticals. Brett has been involved with hiring new talent for a couple of decades as both an individual on a hiring panel and as a hiring manager. He loves bringing diversity of thought and people together to create solutions to problems that help people do great things while helping them realize their potential as software professionals and building great teams. So thank you so much, Stephanie and Brett, for joining us today. They are going to be joined in conversation by Power to Fly's own amazing Wendy Walker. Wendy is a customer success manager with us, supporting our partners as they work towards diversity, equity, and inclusion goals. Wendy is originally from Tennessee, but for the past decade, she has called Cordoba, Argentina, her home. Her background in law and passion for helping people informs her work. And in her free time, she loves hiking and mountain biking. She's currently training to climb Mount, I think we've gone over this before, Aconcagua. I hope that's not terrible. Good. Thank you, which is the highest peak in both North and South America. So Wendy, Stephanie, and Brett, I'm going to turn the floor over to you. Can't wait to hear the discussion.
Thank you.
Hi, Brett, Stephanie, welcome. So I'd love to get this conversation started by learning about both of your career paths and what brought you to Autodesk. Stephanie, would you like to go first?
Sure, and thank you, Meg, for that nice introduction. Really happy to be here. I am in charge of early career talent here at Autodesk and have really been in early career most of my own career, managing or scaling intern programs. I think the best part of my job is getting to talk to students and create these great experiences for them while they're working for us. So really happy to be here. I also know the topic is about mid-career pivots, and I just hired somebody on my team who made a mid-career pivot herself. So we'll be able to reference that as well.
Thanks so much for that, Stephanie. Brett, tell us more about you.
Thank you as well. I love these kind of conversations and hoping to kind of dispel any anxiety or myths involved in applying for internships or adjusting your career midway. As mentioned, I've been in software for a couple decades now. Started out as a software engineer. I've played a variety of roles, and now I've been managing and directing teams for about the last 10. I love building teams. I love what it takes to do that. And, you know, for me, the secret sauce is the umbrella diversity word, right? Diversity of thought, experience, where you're from, who you are. I think that's what closes the gaps on teams and makes teams be able to deliver compounded value.
Great. Wendy, you want me to jump in here and
Go
start the talk? Great.
Yes.
Well, I know we don't have a ton of time with all of you today. And so Brett and I were preparing for this talk, and we're going to share with you a little bit of our conversation. So we work together here at Autodesk, where I'm on the recruiting side, he's on the hiring manager side. And Brett just hosted a couple interns last summer. He's hosted interns in the past. He's one of those great managers that we love working with. And so Brett, let's tell them a little bit about what we were talking about. So we were talking about like certain skills that we look for, whether it's intern candidates or anybody coming, maybe making a career pivot mid-career, but there's a certain skill that we look for and that Brett asks for in his interviews. And can you just share with the audience a little bit about our conversation about that special skill?
Yeah, definitely, Stephanie. So especially if you're an intern or you're doing a mid-career pivot, I think that this is important to understand. I know you don't have all of the skills that I might be looking for. Matter of fact, maybe a call out here is that most job recs are aspirational in nature, right? And you should know that when you apply. For me, the skill that is really important, especially on an engineering team, is your curiosity to understand new things and how to figure out how to become fluent in those new things, and how you would gain experience and expertise so that you can develop yourself in your new career of choice and gain those skill sets. And so having that kind of learning mindset, I think, is an excellent skill that is often underappreciated in interview settings. I know as an interviewer, when I was an individual contributor, a software engineer, I took a little bit of pride of coming up with extremely complicated interview questions, and in hindsight feel like I was inappropriate and really unfair to a segment of the population that might be just starting out. And I certainly learn a lot from recent grads and from people that are coming from my industry through a different industry or through a different lens.
Yeah, great. So, we often do these behavioral based questions, right? So in this case, it would be something like, give an example of a time that you didn't have much guidance and what did you do, right? So if you ask a question like that, Brett, what are types of things you're looking for from a student looking for an internship?
That's excellent. So I think first and foremost, become comfortable knowing that it's okay to say, I don't know. In an interview. Matter of fact, if you don't say that in an interview, I might start questioning and probing a little bit deeper. But the follow-up to that is, here's how I might figure that out, right? So it's okay to say I don't know the answer to that question, but here's what I might do to figure that out. And oftentimes when you're an intern in particular, or when you're coming to a new career that demands different skills and experience than you might have had, raising your hand and asking for help from your team is very appropriate in that context. Matter of fact, as an intern, you might not be that successful unless you're asking for help. We certainly don't believe you've got everything that the senior engineers on the team might have as far as experience, and so knowing when to ask for help, I think, is important. There's a quote by MIT lecturer that I really love, Peter Senge, and that is, the only sustainable competitive advantage is an organization's ability to learn faster than its competition. And I think in the software industry, that's critical. I can tell you in my 20 plus years, the one constant is next year I needed to know different technology. Next year I needed to know a different process to get after those technology implementations. And so I think understanding how to describe your curiosity and describe how you learn things is critical.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I love when we were talking the other day that you said even when you're thinking about bringing on new people on your team at any level, you're not looking to clone someone on the team. You're looking for new people with new thoughts and new different experience, and that is what really adds value to the team. So, a student can't know everything, they're still learning, but just having that learning mindset and that growth mindset and confidence that it's okay is so great, because that's just part of the profession.
Yeah.
Now,
very true.
once they're here, and I'd love to hear how you do this too. How do you keep that practice of continual learning going on, right? You're 20 years in the profession, you're still learning too, right? Like what do you do? What do you encourage your teams to do to keep that spirit of the growth mindset and the continual learning to go?
That's a great question. So I think that good teams and good companies afford time for their employees to explore and learn while on the job, right? I think it's unfair for someone like myself, a engineering manager, or a company like Autodesk, to assume you'll do this on your personal time because you're into it that much. I think we need to afford that opportunity. To that end, most companies these days have some type of learning platforms that they offer employees. And as a manager, I lean pretty strong into that. I always embed myself with the learning team in companies that I work with so that I can discover, do we offer LinkedIn Learning? Do we offer Pluralsight, O'Reilly Books Online, right? There's a variety of mechanisms that you can introduce yourself to self-paced learning. And so part of how I show up on this stage is I set very clear expectations with anyone who reports to me on a team that you have, a couple hours a week that I would hope you do those types of activities, and that you account for those in our planning sessions, and that the team understands what it is you are looking into in case any interesting things fall out of that that we might fold into our own daily operations. And to be clear, it doesn't even have to be related to work. It's just something to kind of shake, that snow globe in your head and get things to land a little differently, maybe orthogonal to what we're doing on a day-to-day basis, because that's where innovation can come from.
Yep, I totally agree. And I love that. Well, good. Well, Wendy, are we getting questions in? Should we switch gears? And so we're sure to address what the minds of the audience is on?
Yeah, so Stephanie, Brett, unfortunately, we have not yet received any questions from the audience. Audience members, of course, we would love to hear from you. Please do submit questions for Stephanie and Brett about Autodesk in the chat. They're here and happy to answer them. Stephanie, as we're on that, I know that Autodesk is participating in the virtual job fair coming up this Thursday. Do you and Brett have any advice that you'd like to share with these participants? I know that you've had quite a bit of experience both in talent acquisition and career development.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say just come and talk to us, right? We've got people working the virtual booth here to meet you and tell you about Autodesk and about our jobs. You could certainly see which jobs are posted and available ahead of time to help drive that conversation. But we'd love to meet you, so please come by. We'll tell you more. Yeah, I mean, obviously our website's the best place to see all the open positions because everything's posted there. For early career internships, we have tech internships as well as non-tech, and so we do hit a wide variety of majors. And so, non-tech meaning like finance, marketing, and then of course a lot of tech positions as well.
Thank you for that, Stephanie. We do have an audience member question from Amanda. So Amanda asks, for people who are making a mid-career pivot, who will be coming in at the junior level? Should they be looking for the interns and the new grads page for job listings or Autodesk? She's not seeing any roles for people that are coming in at that level within the regular jobs posting. So I'd love to touch more, especially on those mid-career pivots.
Yeah, that's a great question. So the internship positions require you to be enrolled in an educational institute and returning to that. So depending on if Amanda's enrolled in something would determine whether intern or not. But otherwise, the junior level positions, as those come available, that's probably where you would start because the years of experience is usually that 0 to 2 or 3 years for roles like that. Brett, do you have anything to add to that? Just thinking about your own team and people you've hired.
Sure, and I know that there's a couple layers between, say, myself and a candidate. But I would offer this, that oftentimes, like I said, those job recs are aspirational in nature, and there's very few companies that I think put out as many junior level recs as they do senior to principal level job descriptions. And I actually find that unfortunate, just to be clear. And folks are trying to change that. So I might recommend in that instance, if you see something that's more mid-level, don't be afraid to submit yourself to that. A good cover letter explaining why you feel you'd be an appropriate candidate for that role is always a good thing. And exploring kind of what you would bring to that role outside of the years of experience, right? Which I sometimes think are overinflated based on what we actually need on our teams.
That's a good point.
Yeah, to that point.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to just add to that because applying to a job, whether you get that job or not, you're still applying to our database. And, we still source out of our own database for candidates like that maybe weren't the best fit for the one job they applied to, but we may have another one open that would be better. And so you kind of have to trust the recruiters know the roles and know this, how to leverage the system. And so just getting you in the database at any company that would go for is a great piece of advice.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Stephanie. And we do have a question to follow up on that, and talking about that database that many of our, aspirations, that many of our candidates face. For big corporations like Autodesk, our viewer asks, qualified aspirants are rejected by the ATS software before a recruiter looks at it. What's your suggestion there? Should they reach out to recruiters beforehand in LinkedIn to let them know they're applying, or they should take on any open source projects? What are the best way to really, get themselves in the door there?
Yeah, I wish there was like one straight answer for this, because I think it varies. There is nothing wrong with reaching out to the recruiter if you know who they are, right? Or anybody that works at the company to say, hey, I saw this position and I'm interested. Can you help me get connected to the right people? I get messages like that on LinkedIn all the time, and I'm always happy to make connections, because guess what? All my colleagues that are hiring managers and trying to hire, they want to know who those people are. So I don't think it hurts to put yourself out there, and maybe it feels like you're putting yourself out there, but that's networking. That's virtual networking for you. It's just like if we were all live, you'd come up to us and talk to us and say, hey, I'm interested in this position. So I think that's a good route to go. They will more often than not tell you to go apply online. And so I'd say still do the online application, and then you could even reference the requisition number or your candidate number. And so that the person receiving that can help connect the dots and get you to the right place.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Stephanie. I love that virtual networking. So Brett, I have a question for you from, sorry if I pronounce this name wrong, from Swaroop. So they ask, are internships based on a project at Autodesk? So if you could give us, I know you mentioned you've had some interns, if you could give us a little bit more background on what that role is like, and is it project-based?
That's a great question. It does tend to be project-based. We do a lot of effort on the teams that are going to be hosting interns to try to carve up something that can be complete or mostly complete within their internship timeframe. We feel that would afford a lot more success within the internship to see something to completion or near completion. And so for me, at least, in the teams I manage, it starts with the interview process. While we're investigating what you may be fluent in from a language perspective, let's say, we're also asking you what you're interested in, and trying to figure out what might motivate you and engage you the most when you do land on our teams. And then I'll work with my tech lead or principal engineers on the team and try to figure out something that we could hand over to that intern to work on. And it's important to recognize that you would be pairing, or you would have the full team at your disposal from a resource perspective. So these things will be challenging, certainly, but they're also doable most of the time in that time frame.
Wonderful. I'm
and
sure
at
that
the end of the internship, sorry, maybe there's a slight delay. I didn't mean to talk over you. At the end of the internship, the interns present on what they worked on. And I get to sit in on some of them too, and it's really fun to see what they learn. But it's a good opportunity for them to be in front of leadership too and share what they're learning and what they did during their time.
Yeah, good communication skills build up as well. And I wanted to just add a comment, if I may, on related to some of the past questions about experience. Is generally speaking, interviewing is an underappreciated skill set, regardless of which side of the desk you're on. And I would offer, submit yourself to any and everything that seems interesting, so that you can start gaining experience in how to interview well and how to remain calm and be able to remember some of the pointers that you might bring to bear from us or others that you participate on listening in.
Thank you for that insight, Stephanie and Brett. So we have two questions from the audience on returnship. So I'd like to switch gears and move to that topic a bit. So Vandana asks, does Autoship have a returnship program? And if not, are you opening to converting any of these positions to returnship? And along the same note, sorry if I pronounced your name wrong, Nadushi asks if you have any advice for individuals who are returning to work after a long career break and wanting to venture into IT careers?
Do you want me to go first?
Sure.
So there's such great questions, right? We don't have something formal called a returnship, but that doesn't mean that we're not open to mid-career or people coming either back from a break or making those kinds of shifts. Something that I love about Autodesk and attracted me to come join here is our philosophy on interviewing, and that we are seeking out skills and skills alone, and that it doesn't matter, where you went to school or where you worked before, or really it's how you use your experience to be able to leverage those skills for what you would do here at Autodesk. And so I know after being out of work for a while that could be scary to join back in. I know I've had people reach out, whether it's friends or people reaching out to say, hey, can you just get me connected to talk to somebody? I would love to get some advice from somebody who's maybe taken a break, or I have a friend of mine who's trying to go back to work after being home for 7 years with her kids. And so, I connected her with a sales manager here that I knew had done something similar. And so that kind of networking, I think, is so valuable to learn about yourself and what that's going to be like. And then, of course, in turn, you learn about the company a little bit and meet somebody who might say, hey, let me help get you in. I'm actually hiring for my team. And so it goes back to the networking, but I also wouldn't shy away from applying just because you've had a break or because you're making a change. A cover letter helps address that, and so does some networking and helping to get, if you know which companies you're seeking and what kind of roles you're looking for, to leverage your network and try to get connected, and leveraging conferences like this to help make those connections if you don't have them already.
Yeah, and we put a lot of effort into assessing the internships as they're closing out. We do a lot of conversations about how we might convert internships to full-time positions as well. I had a great story when I first started at Autodesk, which I'm pretty new myself, started November of last year, and I had an intern that actually rejected our full-time offer for a personal reason, and then came back and was interested in it again. And we couldn't find that, but we were able to land that person another internship because they were still enrolled in school. We do track the people that show up well and that we feel would make a good contribution to Autodesk, and we try to be advocates for them as much as we can. As far as the distance away from jobs, I would say highlight the things that surround hard skills, right? Being able to code in C++ or Angular or JavaScript, those are all very teachable skill sets that are fairly easily teachable. It's critical thinking, it's algorithmic design, it's how do you solve problems when you have interesting constraints placed upon you that you would probably still be able to bring to bear given what it is that kept you away from the workplace for that period of time. I mean, you're doing that regardless of whether you're earning a paycheck for it or not. And so I think it's important to keep highlighting those things.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Brett. And I think that really relates to Lakshmi's question. She asks, are individuals returning to work expected to mention reasons for a break in the resume and expected to update their skill set? I think, Brett, you touched on that really well, that maybe it's not that C++, but it's that problem-solving ability to add to your resume. And I love, Stephanie, your point on networking, especially in this virtual space. So thank you for that. We did have a question. I know we have a question from Patel, and they ask, are remote internships available to Canadians? So I'd love to kind of talk generally about, where Autodesk is located and where are these internships available?
Yeah, great question. So we have locations all around the world, including Canada and the US. And so each of our interns are tied to an office location, whether they're going into the office or not. Of course, we're not sure what that's going to be in 2022. So if Patil, who's asking, is Canadian, I would encourage them to look at our positions that are located in Canada, Montreal and Toronto, to see we're actually recruiting right now for the group that starts in January. And so I would recommend we try to place the interns in the same country in which they're living, and so they're tied to that location. If there is a chance to go into the office, we want to make sure it's easy.
Yeah, and that's true to Stephanie's point. I'm engaged in conversations right now with my teams that one of my teams intersects a large group in Cambridge and Ireland, and so we're looking at interns across the globe right now.
Wonderful. Well, I know we're coming just up on time. So Brett, Stephanie, I would love to give you the chance to let us know where can we learn more about you? How can we connect with you?
Sure.
Well,
so
I welcome.
You go ahead, Stephanie. Okay.
Oh, okay. I was going to welcome you to connect to us on LinkedIn. That's always a great spot. Of course, our website has all the postings, but we'll be at the career fair, the Power to Fly career fair this week. And so come by there. And then we're also hosting, for the next 6 weeks on Fridays, we're hosting student sessions to get to know Autodesk more. So we have some prior interns and intern managers coming on to talk about the experience if you want to learn more specifically about internships.
Yeah, and I'd just like to plant an idea with folks, especially interning, I guess, and the mid-career pivots. Interview us. That interview should be a two-way conversation. If you have a terrible interview somewhere, you should ask yourself if you want to work there. Quite frankly, much to my past and asking ridiculously hard questions, and so I think that you owe yourself a work environment that engages you, and you only get that if you answer or ask questions of us.
That's a great note to close on. Thank you for that, Brett. And thank you, Stephanie. We are excited as well to see Autodesk and our virtual job fair, and your events coming up on Friday sound amazing. So Meg, we will pass it back to you to wrap up day one.
Thank you so much. And yes, I can't second what the Autodesk community or what what Stephanie and Brett said enough. There's an amazing virtual job fair happening on Thursday. I shared some links in the chat thread. It's going to happen from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern on Thursday, the 23rd. I'll be there, so you'll see at least one friendly face. And we would love to have you join us. There will, Autodesk is going to be there along with a lot of other really great companies. So if you liked what you heard today from Stephanie and Brett, please take advantage of the FaceTime that this virtual job fair will allow you with the Autodesk team and so many other really great companies. Thank you to you both, as well as to Wendy. This was a really amazing chat to get to sit in on. I was really happy to hear about some of the great programs that Autodesk has running currently, as well as some of the stuff y'all are considering for the future. It's so great.